What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C4 here, and today coming to you live a couple days after Christmas. I hope all you guys got what you wanted from Santa, be it fucking dildos, lubes, different types of condoms, edible underwear. I know all you guys out there are freaks like that, so I hope Santa and your kinky ass self had one hell of an evening. But today, like I said, I'd like to keep up with daily uploads here, and this is something that I wanted to do, and you guys really want me to do, and you keep asking me to do. And it's a little bit surprising because naturally, even last couple of years, I've been on YouTube doing lots of videos. I haven't done that many mock drafts. Right? People keep saying, do a mock draft, C4, do another mock draft. When's the next mock draft coming? So what I want to do here is I'm going to space this out of 3 videos. It's what I said in my last mock draft, which was kind of unrealistic, a little bit different, which is where I used the fan speak draft simulator. That I'm going to do a full offseason. Like, I want to take a look at what the Eagles have right now and what they have with their contracts and how they're going to do some housekeeping. Then I want to do free agency, in depth about free agency, my thoughts on each free agent. And then we're going to finish off with a mock draft. So today is this will be coming out the 27th of December, and this will be part 1. And in today's video, we will be taking a look at the contract, salary cap, everything the Eagles have right now, and pieces they could decide to move on from, pieces we need to re-sign, stuff like that. Tomorrow will be part 2, which is where we will take a look at free agency, and I'll go through pretty much every potential free agent that has a shot and should blip up maybe on the Eagles' radar and talk about should they get them. I've done a lot of research into what their market value may be, and trying to gauge how much money the Eagles are actually going to have to spend. Then there'll be a little bit of a break, and because I want to save the mock draft, we're going to save it for the 31st. For New Year's Eve, you will get the part 3 of this 3-part series coming out New Year's Eve. So, like I said, smash that like button if you like the idea of this. As always, like to engage in conversations in the comment section below. So if you have any questions or you want to just pipe in with how you feel about a certain issue, don't be afraid. Let's talk it out. Let's chat the Eagles. I love talking about my Eagles. Also, you have a rebuild coming at the end of the week. It's already done, already recorded. Really, really fun. I'm going to say it's probably my favorite rebuild that I've done up to date in terms of success and all that stuff. So stay tuned for that. But, because of YouTube's fucked up algorithm, let's try to hit 498 likes on this video, guys, please, before we start in the video. I need you guys to like it, because that's all these clickbaity channels, not ripping on YouTube, mad at YouTubers, but all these clickbait. We need like 10,000 likes, guys, before we jump into this. Thanks so much. All right, so today, part 1 is where we're taking a look at contracts and salary caps. So the idea that got me to really want to do this, even though I kind of said before this guy did it that I wanted to do, an entire mock offseason. There's a guy on the Eagles Reddit. His name is LilGiant96, and he made a post called Playing GM, Rebuilding the Nest, and it's what kind of gave me the idea to do this now. I was kind of not scraping at the bottom of the barrel for video ideas, but I was a little bit uncertain what videos I could do the last week of December. Because the first week of January, is when the Eagles Connected franchise mode starts up, the expansion mode starts up, so I have content there. It's just this last week of the year I wasn't too sure, and I saw this and I was like, you know what? This guy kind of had some of the skeleton, a little bit of the groundwork that I would have been annoying for me to do. So I'm giving him full credit for some of these things that I'm looking at in terms of, what exact cap numbers we free up, what cap space we do have, and stuff like that. So shout out to him. If you guys are on the Eagles Reddit, he made a post called Playing GM, Rebuilding the Nest. Go check it out. It's definitely a little bit different approach, and by a little bit I mean mostly different approach to what I'm going to come through with you guys, but it's definitely good for a difference of opinion. So looking at it right now today, part 1, contracts / salary cap / housekeeping. Our cap situation as is going to next year is not that great. Before any carryover or, the salary cap usually does rise at the end of the season, we're currently looking at negative 19 grand going into salary cap next year, which is not looking that great according to Over the Cap. It's not good when you still have quite a few holes on your team and you have 0 free cap space to spend. So now we need to think, how are we going to free up some of this cap space for? Who should we get? Who should we move on from? And we have some guys that we can certainly use to free up some space. Guys that I'm not necessarily going to talk about. Actually, no, we'll fucking talk about everyone. The original, this guy, had Marcus Smith on this list. Getting rid of Marcus Smith would free up $1.5 million in cap space, but I did not include Marcus Smith. He's looked decent. I think for how much he costs and how much depth we're going to need now on defensive end, I think he's worth keeping around because I want to cut / trade whichever one is easier for the Eagles. Connor Barwin. He frees up $7.75 million in cap space. He's a great guy, great locker room guy, great community leader, phenomenal community leader, one of the biggest and best we've ever had. And it's going to be tough for Jeffrey Lurie, who seems like he's a big Connor Barwin fan, to get rid of him. But he's just not as productive. He's certainly on the downslope of things. His contract is massive. No, not massive, but his contract is way too much for a rotational defensive lineman, considering we just paid Vinny Curry even more money than we're paying Connor Barwin. So I think, one of them has to go. They're not going to get rid of Vinny Curry. They're not going to get rid of Brandon Graham. So that kind of makes Connor Barwin the odd man out. Plus, he is better in a 3-4 scheme as a 3-4 outside linebacker than being a pure defensive end. So it's good for him, too, because he's going to go to a team, hopefully, that will better utilize his talents, because he's a good guy. And he's a dude that, after the Eagles, I almost for sure they're going to get rid of him. After the Eagles move on from him, I'll still be a fan of him. Hope he does well. Hope he gets double-digit sacks like he did a couple of years ago for us. But he costed way too much money, and we need to allocate that budget somewhere else. Number two here is cut or trade Ryan Mathews. This is most likely going to be a cut, and it kind of sucks. To be fair with you, he frees up $4 million in cap space, so he's definitely not coming back. But, he plays hard. The fumble issues are really annoying. He's kind of injury prone, but when he's out there, man, he is everything we want in a runner. He looks for content. He looks for contact. He constantly moves the chains. He has solid hands, can pass protect. He's pretty much everything we want. He seems to, play with a lot of passion. When he fumbles and stuff, you see it really on his face that's affecting him, and he's really upset, as opposed to guys that just go and sit on the bench and act like nothing happened. Nelson Aguilar. But he has to go. $4 million. We need, running backs are a dime a dozen in this league. We don't need him. Number three would be Leotis McKelvin. Cut him. He's $3.2 million in cap space. Clearly, I think he was a panic signing. He was familiar with Jim Schwartz's defensive scheme, and that's why we decided to bring him in. But $3.2 million for a guy that's looked, at times the worst player on our defense. That's the worst player not only on our defense, but the worst player in a horrible NFL secondary. $3.2 million, you're fucking gone. Ron Brooks is there, $1.6 million. He's one I'm on the fence about. In the nickel, he actually wasn't that bad. It's just the injury issues. He's had some injury issues before he got to Philly, and then, of course, he's missed a lot of time this season with injuries, and I think we could probably go younger, maybe fill that cornerback spot up with a late-round draft pick. I think that'd be a little bit more influential. Plus, with Ron Brooks here, I think a guy like Aaron Grimes, who looked good in the preseason, C.J. Smith, who looked good in the preseason, could probably fill that role in better for, well less than half the price that it costs to keep Ron Brooks. Also, I would adjust Jason Peters. So many people, when you do mock off seasons, you see them, they want to get rid of Jason Peters. We're not getting rid of him. Jason Peters, he's playing at a very high. He made the Pro Bowl this year. Clearly, that was like a name value, name recognition kind of thing. But for the most part, Jason Peters has played very well. The false starts are kind of annoying, and I guess maybe it's just his age and his reaction time. He needs to overcompensate it somehow. But I think we don't have a suitable replacement for Jason Peters. We got Vaitai, who's a right tackle. We got Lane Johnson, who in my opinion will never be he'll never be a good left tackle. I think Lane Johnson is a franchise right tackle. So unless they truly believe Vaitai can start at left tackle, I would keep Jason Peters around. I'd try to adjust his deal, free up a couple more $1 million in cap space. I think he has like an $8 or $9 million cap hit. And it's definitely realistic to assume we could probably chop $1 or $2 million off that. Some people were like, we could probably cut that in half and it'll come back. No. Jason Peters knows his value. He's still, I'd say even at his age, a top 10 left tackle in the league. And what we're paying him is pretty fringe to what other tackles with similar talent are getting paid, but because he's a little bit older, I think we may be able to adjust the things and free up an extra $1 million or $2 million on his contract. I think he'd be willing to do that because he seems like he wants to stay in Philly and he wants to win in Philly, and they need to understand that usually guys, veterans like that are definitely on their last couple years, they will decide if they're truly a team player, put their money where their mouth is and take a little bit less money. So I think $1 to $2 million off a still gigantic contract for Jason Peters is certainly realistic. The last guy is Darren Sproles. And I kind of made this a fluid pick because we cut Darren Sproles, we free up $4 million. But I think we only cut Darren Sproles if we have a plan to get a big name wide receiver or draft a running back very high. I think Darren Sproles, much like Connor Barwin, even though he's a lot cheaper, half the price, big community guy, big fan favorite, still dynamic. You could see this year, though, he kind of regressed a little bit in terms of stats. He doesn't seem as quick, still very, very good and productive. When he was out there at times, Sproles was still our best player on offense, and he offers, a different dimension on special teams, and special teams is a big part of what makes the Eagles good and tick when we are winning. So I think unless there's a clear, we need to get rid of Darren Sproles, if we don't need to get rid of him, I'll keep him on the books. I don't think we have to do anything in terms of resigning. I think he still has 1 season left in his contract, and he'd probably play that out and then head off into the sunset and retire. But I think for the most part, Darren Sproles is. If we have to get rid of him, we have to get rid of him. That's the way that I'm seeing it. If it says, we're not going to talk about that today, but say Alshon Jeffrey, we can get Alshon Jeffrey. We have to move on from Darren Sproles. That makes sense. We can get someone else. We can get Terrell Pryor. I guess he's the other big name out there, or Stephon Gilmore, or Trumaine Johnson, or big time corner or something like that. But we have to get rid of Darren Sproles. That makes sense. But if there's really don't get rid of Darren Sproles for the sake of just freeing up that cap space. If we have nowhere to spend that, Darren Sproles is certainly worth a spot on this roster. But you can't overvaluate that he's super old. He's only getting worse, and $4 million at a position that we already have Wendell Smallwood. We're going to continue to see. As I'm recording this, there's only been 1 day game for Byron Marshall. He has some shades of Shady McCoy a little bit. Maybe Smallwood and Marshall Smallwood and Marshall combined are like half what Darren Sproles is getting paid, let alone what we have on the books for Sproles and Ryan Mathews. I think you can't have rose-colored glasses when you're seeing Darren Sproles. I'm a huge fan of Darren Sproles. He's my girlfriend's favorite player. It would suck to not see him on the Eagles, but you have to understand when the budget's this tight, if we have to get rid of some guy, Darren Sproles is my first guy. I want to keep him, but if we have to get rid of him, throw him overboard and free up some of that cap space. So that does that. I'm putting one guy on the trade block, and that would be Mychal Kendricks, just because Mychal Kendricks, I think he may still have some good perceived value around the league. And he's been hot and cold with us this year. I would say overall this season he has been good. Not great, and he's getting paid like he should be great. He's still getting outshined by Brad. He's our third worst. He's our third worst linebacker. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. I'd have Hicks and Bradham ahead of Kendricks in terms of who is our best linebacker. Different positions, but the fact that he's getting paid so much money, I would throw up on the trade block. I think 2 potential teams that could be trading because they don't have a head coach. There's a lot of shuffling around. A new coach might come in, new scheme, might not find a fit for the player. I think Aaron Colvin in Jacksonville, he's kind of a product of their depth chart where he's the third corner. I think he's looked very productive. He had a very, very good rookie season. I think Colvin could be a potential trade partner. And we'd also, on both these deals I'm going to talk about, we probably free up some cap space as well. Colvin from Jacksonville, or you got to look at the Rams. No more Jeff Fisher, so they totally could be looking at getting some new change of face there. I'm more concerned about would they see Kendricks as an upgrade, maybe over Mark Barron at linebacker. But LaMarcus Joyner, he's kind of a nickel outside corner, but LaMarcus Joyner is a beast. If they do decide to re-sign Trumaine Johnson, who's set to be a free agent, he's going to get paid. I could totally see LaMarcus Joyner being somewhat expendable. But those are just 2 guys off the top of my head. But I would put Mychal Kendricks up on the trade block and see what we can get for him. So now looking back at in-housekeeping, who are we going to keep? We'll go from lowest contract all the way up. So Byron Marshall is set to hit free agent. I think we could probably get him back for like $650K. He hasn't really done enough to get paid much more than that, but I'd have him on the books as one of our 4 running backs that we'll be keeping heading into next season. Number 2 would be Trey Burton. He has a franchise tender, whatever the fuck. I'm not super familiar on how that works. I'm pretty sure we just say, I'd put a second-round pick on him, so that means if team's not willing to give us a second-round pick for him, he comes back, I believe. I'm not fully familiar on that, but his market value will probably be about $1.5 million, and I would definitely bring him back there because Selleck's not getting any younger. I think Selleck might have 1 more year after that, and after that, Ertz and Burton I think is going to be a great 2 tight end tandem for the Philadelphia Eagles. Number 3 would be Steven Wisniewski. We could probably get him back about $2.5 million it's just his depth. He's played solid when he's in there. I don't think we'd ever really want him being a starter from what we've seen this year, but he has a bit of liability in the fact that he can play both guard spots and center. That's what you want for offensive linemen. If you're building a team, I want my depth on offensive line to be incredibly fluid so they can step in at any given moment at any position, which is what we have in Siumalo. He can do that. And now with Wisniewski, he can do that. Even Barbre, who we'll have slotted as a starter going into next year, he can play a lot of places in the offensive line. So that is incredible value. So we'll get Wisniewski for $2.5. And the last one would be re-signing Bennie Logan. A bunch of people are saying, hey, C4, obviously let's move on from Bennie Logan, all right? I don't see the production there. No. Absolutely not. I guess, people want to shit on me for still supporting and thinking Zach Ertz is solid. Sure, he hasn't lived up to the hype, but I still think he's a good tight end in the league and better than most tight ends in this league. Bennie Logan, when he's not in our lineup, our run defense went to shit. People are like, oh, Bo Allen could be decent. No, we're fucking signing Bennie Logan. He makes it tick. You don't want to absolutely destroy the chemistry our defensive line has. They've struggled a little bit getting pressure after the quarterback. I think that's more so because our back end, we're a little bit worried about our back end. We don't bring more than our front 4 pass rushers. But I think Bennie Logan and Fletcher Cox are as good of an interior defensive line as you'll see in the NFL. And you don't break that up, especially with Bennie Logan just entering his prime. I would pay him $6.5 million a year, probably roughly to get him our 4-year Probably be close to 30, 32, 33 million bucks. I saw on, I think it was Over the Cap or Sport Track, some guy made an article about what he thinks. I guess he's an expert for Bennie Logan. He said it'd be $4 to $5 million a year, and I think that's actually lowballing it. I'm going to overshoot it here with $6.5 million bucks to re-sign Bennie Logan to a 4-year deal. I'm not messing up that defensive line. We're going to have Curry, Cox, Logan, and Braden Graham as our defensive line. That is going to be our moneymaker. That is going to be what wins us these tough games. You don't mess it up with Bennie Logan. He's still one of the best run stoppers in the NFL, and he is a franchise player. You don't let those guys walk, especially if you're a team like Philly that you need to hold on to your good players. Guys, I would let walk, though. Stephen Tulloch would be gone. Nolan Carroll would be gone. Brian Brayman gone. Dwayne Gratz, Najee Good, Jalen Watkins, Kenjon Barner. All those guys I would not re-sign immediately. Maybe look at a couple of those guys that present value later on, like a Nolan Carroll if he doesn't go. Brian Brayman was a valuable special teamer. Najee Good, Kenjon Barner, for example. Those guys may come back at some point, but as it stands right now, I want to go into free agency with these guys off the books and seeing if we can get younger or improve. Because most of these guys have had their opportunities to make an impact and haven't really done it. Kenjon Barner has looked decent, especially on special teams, but from a running back standpoint, he's going to cost us probably like $1 million and a half to re-sign him, I just assume. And we just can't allocate that to the running back spot, considering that he's no better than what we have there right now. So this guy here, Little Giants, what was his name? He said that we'll have around roughly $7 million in carryover from last year, going into this year's free agency period. You got to take off $4 million for what it's going to cost us to sign our rookies, which leaves us with about $13 million for free agency spending at this point. So we have $1 million in additional cuts from getting rid of those guys I just mentioned. And if you did get rid of Darren Sproles, which we'll say hypothetically for this video, just to give us a little bit more cap space to work with, Darren Sproles is gone. We have $15 million to build through free agency. And that is where we are going to take tomorrow's video and address free agency. But the big number is the magic number 15. So what I have here is I kind of did what my mock depth chart would be after all these moves and how many positions we need to fill in. Currently, we're sitting at 11 positions. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 draft picks to take over those 11 spots. So that means we got 3 potential free agency signings that we need to make. You can assume that out of the 8 draft picks, probably at least 6, no less than 6, would make the final roster. So maybe a couple more free agency signings. But for me right now, I have getting another quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, an offensive tackle, an interior offensive line, and be it guard or center, an outside linebacker, 2 corners, and a safety. So as it stands in my books right now, I have Wentz and Chase Daniel at quarterback. At running back / fullback, we got Wendell Smallwood and Byron Marshall. At wide receiver, we got Jordan Mathews, Nelson Aguilar, DGB, and Paul Turner. At tight end, we got Zach Ertz, Brent Selleck, and Trey Burton. Offensive tackle, Jason Peters, Lane Johnson, and Hal Vaitai. Offensive guard / center, we got Brandon Brooks, Alan Barbary, Jason Kelsey, Isaac Seumalo, and Stephen Wisniewski. Stephen Wisniewski. Defensive end, we got Brandon Graham, Vinny Curry, Marcus Smith, Steven Means, and Alex McAllister. Defensive tackle, we got Fletcher Cox, Bennie Logan, Bo Allen, and Destiny Vio. Outside linebacker, we got Nigel Bradham, Michael Kendricks, and Ruger Hill. Can't remember his first name, but he actually looks pretty solid on special teams, like he could take Brian Braven's spot. Inside linebacker, we got Jordan Hicks and Joe Walker. Joe Walker looked fairly impressive in the preseason before he got hurt. I think he could be great depth at middle linebacker. Corner, we got Jalen Mills, CJ Smith, and Aaron Grimes. At safety, we got Malcolm Jenkins, Rodney McLeod, and Chris Maragos. And special teamers, Caleb Sturgis, Donnie Jones, and John Dornbos. So I'm going to try to probably write this part out just because there's a lot of information in a quick bit in the description of the video. But let me know what you guys think about who we should sign, not who we should sign, but for the housekeeping, keep it related to this video. Do you agree with who I cut? Do you think we should have kept any of these guys out of that walk? Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below, and stay tuned because tomorrow, bright and early, you will have my take on free agency. It might be even a little bit longer because I looked at Jesus Christ, almost 30 and evaluated 30 plus free agents, gave their market value based off of the $15 million that we have to spend this coming season. So hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you're an Eagle fan, if you're not an Eagle fan, hopefully, fingers crossed. If this is your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to subscribe to Beast Mode TV. It's not just Eagles content, but we're just talking about them today. Smash that like button. Until next time, it's your boy C4 saying peace out.